We need more business-centric HR leaders that actually complement TA. Otherwise,
Absolutely.
you're going to get run over by the leaders, and I can't debate if I don't know business. So
You can't debate if you don't know business. That's an instant quotable from Jason.
there you go.
What's up, everybody? This is Unleash 2026. I am Adam Posner, and this is the podcast. Let's go.
Welcome to the podcast, where we introduce you to incredible humans who share their journeys with the mission to inspire you to harness your own inner tenacity to drive your life and career forward. And now, your host, Adam Posner.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to day one of Unleash. I'm with my man, Jason Desentz of a company you might have heard of, Toshiba. Jason, what do you do over there?
So I have the privilege of leading the HR organization at Toshiba in the Americas, so the whole region across America.
Well, fun fact for everybody, Jason was actually on the podcast last year. I was unable to attend last year. Everyone knows I was dealing with some stuff, but Rona stepped in. Rona was great.
She was great. Actually, she's very good. Very easy interview.
Rona's fantastic. She stepped in. You know, I had to bring in the lefty. I had to go to the bullpen, but she stepped it up. So we're going to get a little specific here.
Sure.
First and foremost, let's set the table. Under your purview is Toshiba Americas.
Correct.
How many employees total?
So in total, it's 6,000 throughout the region, yeah.
How many on your team?
So on my team, I have roughly 50 HR folks across the various different departments in HR. And then I also have the privilege of leading the employee health and safety, security, and facilities functions as well.
And how long have you been with the organization?
2 years now.
Okay, and previously?
Previously, I spent over 20 years in the automotive sector, working for companies like Ford, Chrysler, Goodyear.
Interesting.
And then I actually run my own consulting firm for 5. I took a little bit of step out of the CHRO role just because I wanted to see my kids graduate high school. And
you, man.
Yeah.
Is that what it's about? You put in the time so you could be there for the kids. I got to ask you, when you were a Goodyear,
sure.
Have you been on the Blimp?
Oh, I actually had Blimp operations. I was the HR for Blimp operations. So yes, I've been on the Blimp.
Is it cool?
It is incredibly cool. And it goes really slow, surprisingly. It floats kind of. And it actually, fun fact, it actually is not one big bladder. It's actually 3 bladders inside.
Well, you don't want to have a Zeppelin situation in there.
Yeah, you don't want that.
You don't want that. So like, where's the coolest spot you've flown over with a Blimp?
Oh, just over Akron, Ohio. Sorry, nothing exciting. It's just that's where the headquarters is at.
But don't they have one in California also?
Yeah, they have them They have the hangars in various different regions across the United States. At the time, I think there was like 5 or 6 Blimps still left, but I have no idea.
I think that's a cool fun fact. Like if you're doing like an icebreaker or something, like, all right, tell everyone a fun fact. I've hired. So you've hired Blimp.
I have hired pilots and everything.
Let's get into it a little bit.
Yeah.
What goes into hiring a Blimp operator that's different than a product manager on a technical product at Toshiba? Because you have to hire different recruiting teams, different
Sure.
What are some of those nuances for the Blimp? Obviously, after their the certifications that they must.
Yeah, it's kind of like a fisherman, right? Like if you're going to fish, just in a lake versus fishing in the ocean, you need different tools,
right.
You need different areas to go get the talent. So it was a smaller area to get talent because who has a Blimp operation to fly?
How small is that universe? That talent? How small is the Blimp operator talent pool?
Gosh, I honestly, we had to get external help. Let's just be honest.
Well, is there a niche recruiter who does Blimp sourcing?
No, there isn't. So what we found is we had a recruiter that was really connected with others who were connected with others who were connected with others.
Isn't that what it's all about?
It is all about now.
All right, so let's get into what we're doing now.
Sure.
Does TA roll up into HR?
It does.
Do you think, generally speaking, let's take a step out of your current role, that TA should roll up into HR?
Yeah.
When you put in your consulting hat.
Yeah, well, because here's where it fails when it falls in, is when the HR person doesn't understand business. Because what happens is they lose the ability to be flexible with the leader who's hiring, and they don't try to find solutions. Now, every leader is going to tell me they want all these wants, which then, I have to be smart enough as an HR professional to say, that's really a red-eyed purple squirrel. Like, what are some things you can teach? What are some things that you absolutely must have?
Right.
And then if it comes back where it's hard, what are some things that maybe should this role be 2 roles? Should this not be 1? We need more business-centric HR leaders that actually complement TA. Otherwise,
absolutely,
you're going to get run over by the leaders, and I can't debate if I don't know business. So
you can't debate if you don't know business. That's an instant quotable from Jason.
There you go.
Well, let's riff on this for a little bit.
Sure.
I think one of the most interesting and intriguing innovations as far as roles within our industry is the evolution of the HRBP.
Absolutely.
Right? Because this is somebody, for anyone out there that doesn't know, this is someone who is a practitioner in HR, but also has the business mindset where they're tied directly into the business and they can really understand the KPIs and the goals that the team needs for that division, and have that mindset when they're hiring, and have that instead of just being a recruiter, instead of just being a sourcer, you're actually a partner with
Sure.
the business.
Sure.
I think all recruiters should have an HRBP mindset. How do you teach that mindset in your organization?
Yeah, so all of HR teaches. So you have the centers of excellence, and then you have your field HR people, right? The centers of excellence, what I call working on the process. They create programs, they provide the tools. So compensation is going to tell us how to better do job architecture. You're going to have L&D is going to say, hey, here's a better way to train. And then you're going to have the, all the different comp folks also going to help us with, putting people to market value. But on the other side, you have the ones that work in the process. So those on the process, these work in it. They have to take these tools and apply them. And I always encourage my staffs to jump between the two
100%.
areas because, if I don't ask the business partner if this is going to work, and let's say I'm doing talent management and I give them a 20-page performance review, they're going to get murdered by the managers. So we need to make sure we're communicating first. And then I also want people to do roles in each of those areas to get a better appreciation.
It's like shadow or sit in the role.
Yeah, totally. And actually, you don't have to actually sit in the chair. You could be on a project and still gain knowledge.
You know what? That is such an underrated move in any size company.
Sure.
Sit in meetings.
Yeah.
Just sit in. Understand the lingo, understand what they're looking for, because you're going to be able to do a couple things. You're going to pick up the nuances of the lingo, especially if it's not native to you, if you're a new recruiter in that piece, but you're also going to hear things about the business.
Correct.
You're going to hear what they're looking for, because it could be a project that's more analytical driven, or it could be more product driven. It could be manufacturing, whatever you're going with that, and you'll be able to do it. So let's talk sourcing here.
Yeah.
As much as you're open to sharing, when a new role opens up at Toshiba, do you start from within in the current employees to see if there's upward mobility? What's the ladder of sourcing?
Yeah. So we're not, so let's go back. We start with the intake process, making sure we understand what the leader, what is it they're looking for. And then we have that crucial conversation to guide them along the way to say, this is going to be pretty tight to find, or this is going to be this, we give them some insights first after we hear them out.
So let's talk about that part for a minute.
Yeah.
I love this because we don't I think a lot of companies don't do a good job of this. Let's assess the role.
Yes.
Let's assess the level of difficulty on this role.
Right.
Now, are we talking like, listen, there's only 25 people in the United States that are certified to fly a Blimp. And out of those 25, I would say maybe 17, like I'm just making this shit up here, like 17 of them are happily employed.
Sure.
And there's probably 3 of them we don't want for whatever reason whatsoever. Now we have a niche candidate pool, right? That's a tough to fill role.
It is. The other thing to think about is how can I do it differently? What are some things and techniques that I don't just keep doing the same thing over and over again? Because we keep going back to the same way. Now it's hard. I'm not saying I have the answer to that, but what are some other opportunities we can to find people a little bit differently? And how can we get creative with that? And even more, companies should start this process in their budgeting process so I can pre-plan for the year. Because let's say I know someone's retiring. Let's say go back to the Blimp. Let's use something more practical.
Yes,
Lean Six Sigma Master Black Belt, right? Someone I need to bring into a plan. That's still a smaller pool of people because they don't have the Master Black Belt. So I need to make sure that I know where those pools are. I need to make sure that if I can pre-plan, then I can have that much more time in the recruitment and sourcing.
I think this is a major problem when it comes to, it's always like, oh shoot, somebody just left, and you're always behind the 8 ball, right?
Yeah.
But when you fully understand the business model of it, right? When you understand this is what's upcoming, or in my world, I recruit for within product, tech, in the advertising, marketing, digital media world. We know, we just won a new client. We're going to have to staff up. What are we going to need within that too?
Sure.
So I think workforce planning is something that really at a lot of companies, they either take for granted or they're not just looking forward enough.
100%.
So if you're a recruiter with that mindset on, you could be of value to your team and be proactive about it.
Correct. So we're also doing talent intelligence on the talent management side during performance review time. So I know who my retention folks are, not that if they're retention risk, but why. So I have categories of retention risk, whether it's personal, whether it's money driven, market driven, we actually created a new category called bureaucracy. Meaning I am just so tired with
bureaucracy driven. Bureaucracy driven.
Totally.
I can't wait to Mr. Beast that in there. Bureaucracy driven.
So the challenge is no, you're totally fine. The challenge is we need to identify that, and we also then create our succession lineage. And then from the succession lineage, if that job does come open and it's a critical job, I already have my plan, and I should be updating that plan once a quarter.
Okay, let's talk about calibration for a little bit.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'm working internally with an organization. Sometimes I'm working as an outside agency recruiter. One of the toughest conversations I have with a company is telling them, listen, I've been sourcing for a bit. How do I tell them that it's easy to say that your compensation is under market value. That's easy. The hard part is calibrating that when they want, Google on a McDonald's salary. That's a problem. And that's what leads to issues in recruiting where they want director level candidates, but they can only afford associate.
Well, and as when I was a consultant, I had to turn business away because I wasn't willing to work on stuff that I know that wasn't going to work. And
you're setting yourself up for failure.
Correct.
Like, how we're not going to be able to fill this role. Why am I going to spin my wheel?
And or what I tell them is, how can we get creative where we're going to do maybe a sign-on bonus, which is another creative way to get to the dollar value. And then we say, look, if they prove themselves in the year, let's revisit it again. But at least I got the dollar value in the door.
You got it approved in the budget.
Correct.
And it's also the carrot on the stick.
Correct.
It's so interesting too, in a lot of professions too. I'm seeing a lot in the advertising and media, especially with consolidation. We're losing the bonus, and that's tough. I think people really, it's total comp. It's hard to say total comp when I'm just talking about benefits that everyone expects to get.
It's lost its luster like it used to at one point.
You need the
and the younger generations just in most cases don't even care. So they're more into homeopathic anyways. They're not real big fans necessarily of the doctors. So trying to sell
big insurance.
Trying to sell the upside on that is very difficult these days. So what we do try is other things that we know they value, like their PTO time as it relates to volunteering. You know, we're going to try to put in more parental leave and things like that we know that will catch that generation. But we need to think more generationally, which I just talked about yesterday, actually.
It's interesting too, but more holistic benefits. At Transform, I'm going to introduce you to our other friends, Overalls, who's partnering over here. We have Pin and Overalls covering us for Transform and Unleash. They do custom concierge, which is some pretty cool stuff. So let's talk about sourcing a little bit.
Sure.
What does that look like in the organization? What's the tool set? What's the approach? How do you guys teach? Once you've identified that we don't have an internal candidate, that we're not moving anyone up, from within, do you first go into your database at ATS and look at low-hanging fruit?
Of course. We do that. Plus, I'll go to look at, again, the talent management section of the succession files if it's potentially, let's start there. And then we work our way backwards. I have some amazing sourcers. These are guys that formerly worked in search firms, and they're hunters, man. I just point them in a direction, but they know when they're stuck. That's the one thing I appreciate about them as well.
Take a quick pause on that.
If you're in recruiting, you already know that sourcing eats up way more of your day than it should. That's why I use Pin. Instead of writing Boolean searches and tweaking filters, you just describe what you're looking for and who you're looking for in plain English. I could type something like software engineer at Series A startup with 0 to 1 product experience, and Pin will surface a relevant shortlist right away. No guessing, no wasted time. It turns hours of sourcing into seconds. So book a demo today and see for yourself. Visit pin.com/demo. Tell them Adam sent you.
I've met in my time digging into this industry, people that they don't do the full end-to-end, but they are sourcers. Like, they are ninjas.
Yes, they
are. And
are.
One of my favorites, he's also a full lifecycle recruiter, Brian Fink. I don't know if you Brian Fink. Brian Fink at TA Week in San Diego a few weeks ago literally dropped sorcery on us. Ways to reverse engineer Boolean searches, way to reverse engineer and go on. So I truly believe, I'm sure you go where the candidates are. You find them. They may not be on LinkedIn. They may not be on Indeed. A lot of them, almost everyone's on social media these days. So if you take Instagram, for example, he figured out ways how to source on Instagram.
Yeah.
Ninja stuff right now. And these guys and gals, I give them the utmost respect because they understand the mission. They know where to find them, and then they can hand them off to a recruiter if they're not doing it themselves.
It's you got to let people use their skill sets that they have. And rather than, I'm not going to try to control them. They're the expert. I'm not. But I know what I'm looking for, and I know my timeline, and I know, the budget. Those are the things I do know, but I need them to do what they do best. And I just let them. So I always like to say, I like to have a team of Mustangs. And here's what I mean by that. I want teams that just go and, they're risk takers to an extent, but if they get too far, I can pull them back like a Mustang.
You pull back on the reins.
Right. Well, what I don't want is a camel that I have to push, right? Because the reality of it is if I'm constantly having to push that person, then they're not the right person for that role, regardless of whether it's a source or whether it's talent management, whether it's total rewards, it doesn't matter to me. So I like a team of Mustangs, and it's a challenge sometimes as a leader because they just go. And then, but that doesn't bother me. I'm not intimidated.
What's that number one skill and trait you look for when you hire a recruiter on your team?
To me, it's adaptability, because one of the reasons that the struggle is sometimes they're like, well, I did this way at this company. I'm like, listen, it's Toshiba. They're a Japanese company. They do things culturally differently. You were here in an American company, and just think about that nuance. I'm not saying don't do what you do best, but put yourself in their mindset and adapt. And maybe that, I'm not going to use emotional intelligence, but that empathy of being in that person's shoes and what they're trying to.
Let's talk about empathy. Listen, we're in a market right now where there's a lot of good people out of work.
Yeah.
There's a lot. And it is an employer-driven market. And employers have their choice of the pick of the litter right now.
They do.
And I don't know how you feel about this. I'm going to bounce this one off you
Sure.
because I believe in radical candor, especially when I'm
Yep.
talking to friends, family, people out of work. I go, listen,
Yeah.
you may think you're good at your job and you're out of work right now, but there's someone better than you, and that company is able to hire that person.
Correct.
And it really sucks right now if you're a B or C player. Not everyone could be A, top of their game. You're in a really bad position. So how could those people put themselves in a better position in the eyes of a recruiter and a hiring
Sure.
manager?
So I did this. I was fortunate enough to figure it out on my own early on, but you got to hustle. I have ABH is one of my phrases, always be hustling.
Amen to that. I'm a student of that, man.
And why what I say by that is I didn't know in what parts of HR early on in my career, so I made the opportunities. I tell a story a lot in my speeches where there was a row at Chrysler, and I was in my early 20s, and I was a row of directors, talent management, total rewards, whatever. I knocked on their doors. I introduced myself. I said, listen, can I spend 30 minutes to understand what your department is more about? And by doing that, it showed initiative. It also showed whenever any one of those jobs came open in their departments, I got a call.
You got the call.
Jason, can you apply? So what happened was I have a very well-rounded HR background. I could talk about which chairs I haven't sat in easier than I can which chairs I have. And that's because I moved around because I needed to develop. Second, my education is not in HR. I have a master's in business and a doctorate in business. That's because I need to be able to influence the business, not HR people. So why not educate myself on the business side, which has obviously helped me out tremendously.
You said the word influence, and influence is a huge word when it comes to recruiting.
Sure.
Because you have to influence the candidate and you have to influence the hiring manager, but you also have to have the receipts behind it.
Amen.
Right? You need to be able to back it up. So let's talk tech on the tech side.
Sure.
As much as you're open to sharing, what are some of those tools, platforms? What are you guys using at Toshiba from a sourcing perspective? And tell us a little bit about the evolution of technology that you guys have went through.
Only from my short time here, they really, it was scattered. They were using Indeed, they would use LinkedIn, they would even use freaking advertisement on and papers and stuff. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me. So not that it doesn't work, but it doesn't work.
Manufacturing role? What kind of role?
Yeah, exactly. They're mostly manufacturing. Like we've got a lot of skilled ones that are on our steam turbines that are really difficult, where these are guys that have to go on site for like 3-4 months to build these big turbines for all the power stations. And then they got to go to Japan to train for a whole month. So it's like, these guys are,
It's a serious job.
These are really serious jobs.
It's a small, again, we go back to the small talent pool. So
Yeah.
a skilled recruiter will know where those people are.
That's exactly
And
right.
there's also probably only a couple of companies in the US that do that. So you're playing the ladder game, right?
Correct. And my sourcers, if they don't know it, they know a sourcer who knows a sourcer who knows a sourcer. And they're using their wide network to like, hey, I got this real difficult job. And then if that all fails, and we do this really quickly, we look at the numbers, we look at the time to fill rate, then we have an escalation point where it's like, all right, we need outside help. And then that's when we switch. Now, internally, I'm looking at a tool eventually, because I need to free up some of the time that I think is manual in nature, obviously, that we all know. And then that'll allow them to let the tool do most of that for them, and then they can spend most of their time actually evaluating.
All right, so you're literally setting me up. I love this. These are like jump shots right here. It's like laying it up. So I say the tools out there right now,
Yes.
they're not going to solve all your problems, but what they're going to do is they're going to help your
Enhance.
recruiters automate the stuff that can be automated to give your recruiter more of the human time
Yes.
to have the actual conversations. So for me, for example, I use our tool Pit over there. I'm going to give a shameless plug to our awesome sponsor. But in terms of what it does for me, I put in the parameters I'm looking for. Not only does it ingest the job description, that's table stakes these days,
Correct.
right? But what I'm able to do now is use natural language AI instead of like having a Boolean search and say, tweak the search this way, show me more of this people, less of that people, upload that profile, into it and tweak it along the way. And now it's shortlisting to me. Now it's doing all the outreach, right? Now I'm setting all those campaigns. Aside from Tim, but generally speaking, how have you seen these tools working to give your recruiters more time?
Yeah, and to me, I mean, the two big wins, I think, right now, and I know they do a lot more. So shamelessly, I'm just going with the top of the mind. Just so I don't have to, it'll bubble up the good ones, rather than a recruiter. Because we all know how it works. It's like the first 50, and if you find 10, I'm not even looking.
Yeah, I'm done.
So
that's another thing. So I know candidates need to realize too, timing is everything.
Everything. That's why this is actually going to help the candidate more so than the recruiter even. And those real gems will bubble up. So that's one. And two, scheduling, right? Scheduling
should always be automated.
Oh, it should be automatic. That takes up a lot of time, the rescheduling. So if we can figure those two things out to start, I want to hear the analytics. I want to hear all that stuff after that. We got to solve the first two pieces first, in my opinion.
It's so interesting too. I always say scheduling is the biggest bottleneck. Right? People are traveling, work, but it really comes down to, let me reframe this for you. It has to start at the top with somebody like you that says, when we're hiring for a role,
Yes.
unless it's mission critical for the company, the people that work at this company are mission critical, so hiring should be.
Yeah.
That means if you need to move a meeting to schedule an interview, you do that. Why do so many companies fail at that?
Because they're on this first in, first out kind of approach, which I don't know why. They don't know how to pivot. In fact, I've even had some HR people go, well, I need to finish this first. And I'm like, do you not understand how priorities can change?
Mm-hmm.
And you need to adjust. This is why I asked, when you asked me what's the quality I look for, adaptability. They need to know how to adapt. So it's not like, because I have had people that are so process driven, they can't move outside of like step 1, step 2 and go back to step 6. I mean, it just
They're linear. They can only work on that.
They're very, yeah.
All right, let's talk fraud for a second here before some,
Yeah.
hot takes we're doing here.
Yeah.
What are you and the team doing to prevent and limit fraudulent applications, fraud on interviews, AI-enabled BS?
Oh man, it's everywhere. I don't know if you've heard, but I know there's a tool out there, and I don't know the name. I just heard about it actually at a conference in New Orleans, where it's a teleprompter that the candidate can put in behind the screen, and as they're interviewing, it'll listen to the question, put the answer up, and let them teleprompt it out. However, there are also other tools.
Eye tracking tools.
Eye tracking tools.
Like if I'm talking to you and my eyes keep going up like this, or the pause is too long.
Correct.
Like if you ask me a question, I'm like, no, they hear it in the ear, and they're wearing like earpieces. It's crazy. But
there's
the other piece is also fraudulent. Think about a company like Toshiba that has lots of proprietary technology and trade secrets. You have to be extra mindful, and I'm sure you have layers on top of it.
There are huge legal compliance layers on top of that. Because, at one point, Toshiba was the 4th largest patent holder in the world.
Fun fact.
So they are known for their innovation. They're known for their IP, and we protect it at all costs.
What's your favorite metric in recruiting and sourcing, and your least favorite metric?
Oh, time to fill is interesting. I wouldn't say it's my least favorite, but it's up down there. It's just interesting, but what does it tell me other than what are you going to do?
What are you going to do about it?
Yeah, correct. My
a lot
other
of X factors in time to fill also.
My other fact that we just started doing surveys after the recruitment process, where we're asking the managers and the candidates. One metric I like to understand is was the manager prepared to receive you on your first week? And
From
I'm
an
looking
onboarding perspective?
correct. So I'm looking more at the manager and how they're onboarding them, because that alone will tell you how sustainability they will be in the organization.
Totally awesome.
So,
Jason, leave us with some words of wisdom here. What advice would you give somebody who's coming to a conference like this for the first time and they're trying to survive Vegas? How do you get through it?
so I always have a 3-word phrase I use all the time, and it's for everything. And it would be for this: listen, learn, and lead.
Listen, learn, and lead.
So you got to listen to what people are trying to talk to you about, learn why it's going to benefit you and how it's going to benefit the employees and the customers. And then at the end of the day, lead. And even when you lead, ask questions like, okay, that's interesting. Does it do this? Does it do that? Any of the products? And then I also try to, when you do that, also do that with CHROs. If you're another CHRO, learn from others. Don't make the same mistake that others have made, and they will tell you.
Sage advice here. My sage advice: drink more water than you think you're drinking.
Amen on that.
Hydrate and try to touch grass and get some actual air and step out of the casino.
Oh my God, yes. The
Jason
smoking.
Desentz, I want to thank you so much for joining us on the
Thank you so
podcast.
much.
Where can folks find you? Where can they connect? Where can they learn more?
You can look. Best thing is on LinkedIn. I'm kind of a ghost otherwise online. I just focus on work, and that's just kind of who I am.
First of 23 interviews over the next 16 hours is in the books. Let's see if I can keep this energy level up. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Good stuff, man. Yeah,
thanks,
man.
Thank you.
That was fun.
Wisdom is forever, but for us, it's time to go. Thank you for joining us. Luckily, we'll be back with our next episode soon, jam-packed with more incredible humans. Thank you for listening, subscribing, and sharing. To join the conversation, search the podcast on LinkedIn. And to catch up on past episodes and more info, please visit www.thepodcast.com.